Hi guys, Wesley here from Paradigm Cooling. We're out in Cape Town CBD area at the Cape Town Magistrates Court. We received a call out from actually another contractor who is having an issue with the Samsung DVM S system. Um, word is that the system is showing two error codes. The one is the E215 error code, and the second error code is the E213 error code. According to the contractor, they are not receiving any technical support from Samsung because the policy is that you do need to be an authorized dealer and supplier of Samsung products. And whatever the issue is around that, they've basically asked us to come down and see if we can find the issue. So we at the magistrate's court now. We're going to take a look at the system and we're going to see if we can sort this out for them. Okay, so the site they've asked us to look at is actually at the Cape Town Magistrates Court. They've been having ongoing issues with these systems over the years. There were issues apparently with some contractors with the installation, and as a result they've been having constant issues with these type of error codes and things related to the installation. The 215 and 213 error codes that the client has communicated to us is basically consistent with, well, the 213 error code basically says that the addressing on the MCUs is not matching the addressing on the indoor unit. That's something simple enough that we can pick up from the SNET software. And then the other error code, being the 215, is basically consistent with a duplicate addressing on between one or more MCUs. So the first thing we're going to do, we're obviously going to connect our SNET software so we can take a look at what's happening, and then we also have to physically go into the roof space and go check what the addressing is on the MCUs. The system they've asked us to look at is a two condenser system, DVM S Samsung. According to the addressing on the condensing unit, we have 19 indoor units as well as 4 MCUs. Unfortunately, because we didn't do the installation and there isn't an active or available schematic for the system, we're actually going to have to physically go in there and go check out exactly what's happening, how many MCUs, let's see if the numbers are correct. What we are looking for is a duplicate addressing between 2 MCUs, as well as a mismatch in addressing between one of the MCU circuits and an indoor unit. Follow us guys, let's go take a look. Well, there we have the confirmation guys. SNET confirms that there's a 215 error code on both the condensing units, which means somewhere in the system we have a duplicate address. So one or more of the addresses at the MCUs are duplicated. So the next step here is going to be to go into the ceiling space and find that duplicate and rectify it. Here we can confirm a few minutes into the diagnostic, the error codes have both changed to 213 error codes. So the information given to us by the contractor is spot on. 215 and 213 error codes existing. The 213 error code is a mismatch between the indoor unit address and the address for that unit that has been set at the MCU. So from the 2 error codes we are confirming here, it seems that we may have an installation issue around addressing at the MCUs. So for the sake of solving the problem, the MCUs are going to be the focus of our investigation. So the team and I are going to get into the ceiling space. It's going to be a little bit dark up there. We're going to get into that ceiling space and go and check the addressing at each one of the MCUs. Okay, so we've made our way to the first MCU. This is the MCU model number S4NEE1N, which is the 6 pipe version of the MCU. At these dip switches, so what we're gonna do is at these dip switches and at these rotary switches, we're gonna check exactly which addressing has been set up over here, and then we're gonna check them on every single one of the MCUs and see if there are any duplicates. According to the 215 error code, which is showing at this MCU, you can actually see here says E-215, which means that it's more than likely that the duplicate addressing exists on this MCU and one of the others. But what we're going to do, just to be thorough, is that we're going to go through each one of these MCUs. We're going to document exactly which addressing it has, the position of the dip switches, and then we're going to see if there are any duplicates, and then how we're going to rectify it. Okay, so there's a couple of things here. We are at MCU 2 now, and we've taken down all the addressing, and there's something interesting happening on this MCU. Firstly, you have two RefNet branches on circuits, one on A to B, and then one on C to D, and then E to F on single systems or single pipes, which means we've effectively got 4 systems on this 6 system MCU, and then your first 2 sets of circuits are connected into a RefNet joint. So when it comes to the addressing for that sort of setup, how you would do it is you would have an identical, so in the case here we've got circuit A and B going into a branch into one system, so which means your addressing at A and B on the rotating dials should be identical. We do have that. They are both set at 10, so the addressing for the first 2 is set at 10, and that's correct. The second set of piping, again, it does exactly the same thing as 2 circuits going into one branch into one system, so which means the next address in the sequence would be 11, which means you'd expect to see C and D both 11. That's exactly what we have here, and then the rest of the addressing is pretty much done properly. The one thing that's interesting here that I have picked up that is not normal installation practice is the fact that your SW switches over there, so we've got all the switches on over here 1 to 6 as they should be, but there is an issue at the SW dip switches because your first 2 circuits are on one line in the MCU and your second 2 on another line. That means that ordinarily you would have to have these 2 dip switches in an off position, the SW switches. They are currently in an on position, so that's the first issue we've picked up, and that's a contributing factor towards the E-213 error code. Those switches need to be switched in the off position to let the MCU know that those are running into a RefNet branch. So we're actually going to do that right now. So we've already picked up our first issue here. We're going to do that right now. We're going to rectify that. So circuit 1, which is basic, sorry, that's the wrong one. That's not the SW switch, this is the SW switch. So number 1 would be for circuit AB, number 2 would be for circuit CD, number 3 would be for circuit E and F. So because the first 4, which is 1 and 2, are running dual circuits into a dual piping into one set of piping into dual circuits, they both have to be in an off position. There's our first issue. Let's move on. Okay guys, well, seems to be we found our problem. First thing that's worth noting is that the 215 error code that we saw at MCU00, which is the first one, is duplicated here, which means what that's telling you is basically that you're going to probably have the duplicate on this MCU. And as we go through the MCU addressing, if we run down the sequence, this MCU should start at 14, or the addressing should start, circuit A should start at 14 and work its way down to 19. But if we look at these, you can actually see that The very first one is marked as system 404, which is a direct duplicate of the D circuit at MCU 00, which was the other MCU that had the 215 error code. So it's most likely all the others are correct, which means it's most likely that the installation technician simply didn't put the above dial switch in the right position. So we're going to do that right now. So how these things work obviously is the top dial is the first digit and the second dial is the second digit. So in the case of this, it should be reading 14, which means the top dial should be at 1 for digit 1, and the bottom dial should be at digit 4, or at the position 4 for the digit 4, which will make it 14. Right, so what has happened now is that should have actually fixed the 215 error code. So what we'll have to do is we'll have to just go out to the software and just reset the entire system and see if we've gotten rid of the E-215 error code. Right, so as things stand, we seem to have gotten rid of the 215 error code. Still existing on the system, you can see over there, error code 213. So what we're going to do is we're just going to check very quickly what the addressing is at the indoor units and see if there's a discrepancy between those and the ones at the MCU. Yeah, immediately you can see over there the very first address, 20.0.00. That's not one of the addresses that exist at the MCU. And if I go quickly down the line and I look at the rest of the addresses, all the rest are fine except that one that says 00 should be reading 10. So we're going to very quickly change it. And let's see what that does to the system. And there you have it, guys. Both the error codes, the E-213 and 215 error codes, have both disappeared. So you can look over there, you can see there are no more error codes present at the condensing unit. So what we're going to do now is we're going to just select all, spool these units all the way down, cooling. So what we're going to do is we're going to basically run all the indoor units and then see how the system performs from there. Beautifully done. All the systems are up and running, all the error codes are missing, expansion valves are responding nicely, every unit is up and running perfectly. Problem solved. Right, so SNET has been running for about 30 minutes. We've been recording the system performance for the so we can keep it on record for the client. Everything seems to be working perfectly so far. So problem solved with regards to the error codes that we were called out for. So that was us resolving an E-213 and E-215 error code on the Samsung DVM S system. The important thing to take away from this was that it's very important that you follow the proper installation practices. Things like tagging your pipes, tagging the MCUs, making sure you label everything properly and that you keep a written record of all your addressing across the system. It's two very small mistakes that caused the issue here, but they could have been resolved through good installation practice. All these units come with installation manuals, and if you follow them step by step, it is very easy to put in place a very good installation and a very good unit. Tag everything, write everything down, take your time. Sometimes to go fast, you have to go slow. See you next time, guys.